But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Let's begin it.
Number ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9. I said I've never seen such hideousness in all my life.
Listen to all this,
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with Buddy.
But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Well, hello and welcome to HBR Talk 342, down to Grifter Town. Why the heck is my microphone so low? Like, what the fuck? Sorry guys, I don't know why it's so quiet. I have it turned all the way up. I don't know what's going on there. Let me see if I can...
Here is another voice. Can
Yeah.
chat tell us how much louder my voice is than Hannah's?
There we go. I think this thing is bendy, so I put it closer. I'm sorry if, to the sound people in the audience, if this increases the plosives. Just remember you're listening to a nerd. There we go. But yeah, it was fine just the other day in that spot. So it's like magic. I don't even understand what's going on there. But in any case, like I said, welcome to HBR Talk 342, down to Grifter Town. We've been looking into this hole, this deep, dark, nasty, dank, disgusting hole of government spending, and I've been thinking about this. I mean, rabbit holes go deep and they wander a little bit, and you find yourself in odd places and so on. But rabbits are cute and fluffy, and even if you don't have any sympathy, for little rodents that look cuter than other little rodents, you can eat rabbits. They have some benefit in the world, at least, right? There's nothing good about this. What we're looking into, there's nothing good about this. It could be good if they would take the feminism out of it, but it's not comparable to a rabbit hole. So the only thing I could think of was goblins. Right? And
do goblins have holes? Is that how goblins work?
Well, I mean,
I realize that Jews have tunnels, but that doesn't mean that
they live in a big hole in the mountain, That's where the title comes from. Down to Grifter Town. I can't sing that deep. It's one feminine thing about me. I can't get lower than tenor. But and yes, I am showing my age, and no, I do not care. Actually, I'm kind of proud of that.
I believe tenor is a male.
Yeah. Altos, a lot of altos can get down into the tenor range.
You get alto or soprano.
Yeah, no, a lot. There's notes that some altos can't get low enough to, but some altos can get into the tenor range, and I'm one of them. But I can't.
I've no idea what I am. People have asked me what I am, and I think the technical term is baritone, but I'm just like comedy. I can only sing comedy songs. I've tried singing serious songs. I don't sing like a singer. I sing like a comedian.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
What's funny is my brother is also a tenor, but he's actually a tenor. I'm an alto that can hit tenor, so it's a little bit.
I have no
different.
idea what I am. I have no idea what I am. I think I was told I was a soprano, but I have a hard time hitting like the higher ranges. But I do my best.
To be honest, this is not another one of those points of identity politics that I don't think matters.
Well, it does if you're trying to sing a piece that has notes that are out of your range, because that can get painful. But in any case, so here we go. I'm your host, Hannah Wallen, here with Nonsense Annihilator Lauren Brooks and the personification of perceptivity, Mike Stevenson. And this hole we're exploring is deep, dark, and filled with the stench of goblin or feminists. The stench of feminists. They seem to have found a magic weapon disguised as an innocent piece of human nature that, when utilized, causes establishment entities to throw money at them. So, there we go. But before we get into it, we probably should glove up before we get into it. But besides that, we got to do what we got to do. As always, Honey Badger Radio dishes out a smorgasbord of thought-provoking discussions, and as experiences both recent and long past have demonstrated, the provoked thoughts are fighting back. They've made it clear that for people like us, relying on third-party payment platforms like Patreon to fund our work is treading on thin ice, or building our house in the path of a rapidly growing wildfire. In light of this, we strongly encourage our supporters to switch at least their support for us to feedthebadger.com, the most stable way to help us out. And if you want to tip us directly instead of relying on any social media platform's tip jar, the link for that is feedthebadger.com/justatip. And as always, the same risk applies to our social media platforms, which is why you should further provoke the thought police by tracking our thought-provoking discussions on honeybadgerbrigade.com, where you can find your way to all of our content, as well as a link to feedthebadger.com in the drop-down menu at the top of the page. And if you want to listen, I should say, to this, because there's not really I guess there is a feed for a couple of other platforms besides YouTube. But a lot of the platforms we use is just sound. So in any case, if you want to look at some of the other platforms that this is playing on and you're used to watching it on YouTube, honeybadgerbrigade.com is the place to look. So, this particular branch of the whole is the best way I can put it, because this really is a whole. I actually went back and looked. We were looking at examples that I found searching the word feminist last time. I thought we'd just go right into it and search the word feminist. And we did find a bunch of stuff, and there is still more to go over from that hole. But I just got curious because, there's other things that you can look at that feminism uses a lot of coded language and stuff. And one of those is, we kind of highlighted last week, gender-based. Right, now, if I just put the word based in there, anything that had the word based in it would come up, not just gender-based. But if I just put the word gender in there, and of course anything that has gender as part of its description comes up. And that...
the idea of gender-based seems like something of a contradiction in terms.
Yeah.
When you think of it in terms of modern-day memes and such. But yeah, how are you supposed to weed this out when there's so many things called gender-based? I mean, gender is cringe and based is, based. But gender-based, how do you pull that out of the weeds?
Well, the thing I noticed last week is, when we first started talking about these issues, we were still seeing what we currently talk about as intimate partner violence on a regular basis. That was referred to as domestic violence. And it was for decades, actually, referred to as domestic violence. And when feminists wanted to sort of take over the idea and the treatment of domestic violence, they started calling it intimate partner violence, because that way they could expand it from violence that is ignored by the police because it's taking place within a family inside a home to violence and other forms of aggression that take place within a partnership that doesn't necessarily involve living together. So if a woman accuses her boyfriend, who doesn't live with her, of stalking and harassing her after they break up, now he's her ex-boyfriend, calls her on the phone once for something, I would like my socks back, some dumb thing like that, and the next thing you know, there's a restraining order. He's stalking me! And that's, not, I know it's not everything. Like, there are instances of actual stalking, there are instances of actual harassment, but they call it gender-based violence now. They were calling it intimate partner violence, and there's a specific reason for the change, right? Intimate partner violence, you can discuss that in genderless terms. So this happens between couples that are heterosexual, and it can go either way. It happens between couples that are homosexual, and it happens to people who are bisexual. So everybody can experience this, and not only can everybody experience this, but perpetrators can be either sex, right? If it's intimate partner violence. As soon as it's gender-based violence, we get right back to the Duluth model, which views all of this type of violence as a behavior that is caused by patriarchy, that represents men trying to dominate women, men as a population trying to dominate women as a population and control women. And that changes everything, right? Because as soon as it's the male population trying to control the female population, then suddenly it doesn't have to matter if it happens to a male victim. It only has to matter if it's done by a male perpetrator. And so when they've changed it to gender-based violence, that's their territorial pissing on the idea again, so that we're not talking about it in terms that allow for female perpetrators to be taken seriously, possibly prosecuted, possibly to go to the same kind of programs that male perpetrators go to, where they admit that what they're doing is wrong and harmful, and that they maybe have a temper problem and need to change the way they think about interpersonal conflict and that kind of thing. So, with that in mind, I went through and searched gender, and I found some interesting things. And we'll start with, I might actually start with the end here, what I was going to look at last. So there is a concept called feminist jurisprudence that I learned about this early on in my Reddit days, so this would have been something that I've been hearing probably for about 10 to 12 years, this term. Feminist jurisprudence is basically feminism in law. Right? There's this whole long paragraph, a philosophy of law based on the political blah 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 of feminism. When it began, which the 60s, the second wave of feminism started with this feminist jurisprudence thing. And here's the important part, right? Now holds a significant place in U.S. law and legal thought, influences many debates on this whole set of issues here that we discuss. Through various approaches, feminists have identified gendered components and gendered implications of seemingly neutral laws and practices. So this is how feminists inform law and policy in a way that, in their beliefs, justifies discrimination. And of course, it doesn't, but they can convince legislators, they can convince judges, they can convince police forces, prosecutors, and parts of the general public that they should be able to trample your rights.
I'm glad Trump is going ahead with this executive order about there is only two genders.
Yeah.
And you know, something is better than nothing, but he is clipping at the leaves of this Cthulhu plant. If he were really to address the seeds, this is what he would do. I mean, the idea that men and women can change their gender is, it seems radical, and yes, it is. But those are just the latest flowerings of the deadly plant that was planted by feminism. And if you don't pull this poisonous plant out by the root, then you're just going to keep getting it germinating all over the world. This is people clipping at the leaves, but if the seed is still planting itself all over the world, then you're going to keep getting these same things. We could say, oh yeah, we don't believe men should play in women's sports, and yeah, but if you're still subsidizing this this cockamamie theory that men oppress women everywhere and always have, then you're gonna keep getting these eruptions of men should become women, and then they'll be less oppressive. I want an executive order that doesn't just say there are only two genders. I want an executive order saying men do not oppress women everywhere and always have. I know, that's not going to happen anytime soon, because Trump doesn't understand that. Musk doesn't understand that. They've only recently got on board with the outer limits of this contagion.
Yeah, it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
And it's, the hard thing is this. And there's a guy that I follow on X that had a great metaphor for this. He goes by the name of Shadowclaw, at Shadowclaw87, and he said to me, I just thought of a metaphor for feminism. And he'd said that we were talking about this. You and Mike were talking about this. I hope I'm pronouncing this right, by the way. I believe it's pronounced kudzu, Kudzu. It's an invasive vine that grows in the U.S. with beautiful purple flowers that destroys and tears down entire forests. You have to find and kill the root crown. And I started watching, there was a video he posted on it, on how to kill it. And it's interesting that it's a vine, and it grows from an original, like, little plant that's maybe the size of a potted violet. And that little plant has a ball of roots that goes down into the ground, and a little bit of it sticks up. And it shoots off a vine, and after a little bit, a couple of feet, maybe, another crown like that forms in the ground. And then that one shoots off a vine, and it goes, and it continues, and it grows really fast, and it takes over entire forests, and it weighs down the trees, it covers up everything so that nothing can get sunlight, it sucks all the nutrients out of the soil, it kills all the other plants, basically. It just sucks the life out of everything. It is a leech plant. So it is a perfect metaphor for what feminism does. And in this instance, so you look at this concept of feminist jurisprudence, right? And this is from Cornell Law School. So this isn't just some rando website. This is what the establishment thinks feminist in terms of feminist jurisprudence. And as it says here, this is targeting laws impacting employment. It's like the first thing listed, right? Employment, divorce, reproductive rights, abortion, rape, domestic violence, and sexual harassment. They've all, quote, benefited from the analysis and insight of feminist jurisprudence. And it goes on to say, it describes patriarchy theory, basically. Feminists believe that history was written from a Western cis male point of view and does not reflect anyone else's role in making history and structuring society. This male-written history has created a bias in the concepts of human nature, gender, political, or gender potential, and social arrangements. The language, logic, and structure of the law are male-created and reinforced Western male values and power dynamics. Creating a binary of male and female also creates an implied hierarchy. So it actually does get into the gender mafia ideology as well there. And the problem, obviously, with feminist jurisprudence is that you take a law that says, and let's say they have a law that says don't spit on the sidewalk. You cannot spit on the sidewalk. Spitting on the sidewalk puts other people at risk, especially in the wintertime. And Ohio has a lot of communities that actually still have laws on the books, don't spit on the sidewalk. And it's from back in the day when there used to be a spittoon outside of every bar for men that were chewing tobacco. Chewing tobacco wasn't something that women did a lot, but some women did. And, you know, you'd spit your tobacco spit in there, and if men were sitting around talking and everything, they might aim from a distance and miss the spittoon, and then you end up with this slimy mess on the sidewalk. And if it freezes, you now have an ice patch. And if somebody's walking along and they don't see it, you now have somebody on the sidewalk, right? And the other thing is sidewalks used to not be, cement didn't always exist, so sidewalks used to be wooden. And that shit is acid, and it will eat through the wood. It probably damages concrete too, but since it's not a common thing anymore, right? So you have this law, you can't spit on the sidewalk. Okay, spitting on the sidewalk is illegal. Feminists come along. Oh, wait, now, spitting on the sidewalk is something men do to intimidate women. It's a gender-based crime, right? Men have low-heeled boots, and they can see their feet everywhere they go. But women wear these big puffy skirts everywhere they go, and they have these high-heeled boots, and they're not made for work, and they're not made for traction. So obviously, spitting on the sidewalk is a gender-based crime. And the next thing you know, spitting on the sidewalk is illegal when men do it, but not when women do it. And if a woman falls on, a pile of spit or a patch of ice from spit on the sidewalk, well, obviously, that was a gender-based assault. And instead of a small fine, now you're going to jail. Right? That's how feminist jurisprudence works. Feminist jurisprudence says that children are better off during their tender years with only their mothers, instead of being shuffled back and forth to mothers' and fathers' houses after a divorce. And no reason except God said so, right? That was the logic behind the tender years doctrine, because God said so. How do we know God said so? A woman told us.
A God-shaped hole.
Yep, a God-shaped hole. And so, that's what we're looking at in terms of every place we see in the law and policy, every place that we see gender, the word gender. Just remember what feminist jurisprudence is. And if you think it's, they did all the teaching on this back in the 60s, and now it's not so much being promoted. All right, here is UVA law. This is Virginia, University of Virginia. All right, this is spring of 24, so this past spring. Feminist jurisprudence schedule information. This was what level course was this? I don't know if it says. They may not be doing that anymore, where it's 101, 201, 301, and all that, and telling you what year or how many semesters you have to have been in before you're really eligible to take this class. Feminist jurisprudence is a field in which scholarly activity is rooted in a set of practices designed to excavate and revise the myriad of ways in which law conditions the lived experiences of women, men, and children. They put women first. Feminists. And so they're studying what are understood to be the distinct schools of feminist jurisprudence. There are now multiple schools of feminist jurisprudence, and the forms of practice that each supports. And now they have this whole coursework studying the history, critical race feminism, queer legal theory, like all of the feminist things, all of the intersectional things. And this is a course that it's available to any students in family law, philosophy, and the humanities. So there's a huge area there that anybody can take this course. And so this is not old. It's not, it's been around a long time, but it's not something that isn't being done anymore. It's not so entrenched that they're not having to continue to teach it. It's so entrenched that it's part of their system of education. Like, if you go to a lawyer for anything, your lawyer has probably studied this. When you have to deal with police, if you have to report a crime, or if you're a witness to a crime, or if you're accused of a crime, they've had that as part of their education. The prosecutor has had that as part of his education. The judge, in any case that you're involved in, has had that as part of his education. And, the laws that have been passed, the legislators have actually been inundated with commentary from people input during the legislative process from that standpoint. So it really is like that kudzu plant. It's everywhere. It grows rapidly. Its tendrils go in all different directions, and once it puts down its root ball in one place, it expands into the next and the next and the next. So, yeah, that's basically what we're dealing with, and it's what we're looking at today in this particular segment of the rabbit hole, the goblin hole, the feminist hole. That sounds even grosser. We'll go back to goblin hole.
And I noticed we're being told the DOS means Department of State. No, DOS means Disk Operating System, and it always will. To those of us of a certain generation, we will never forget the DOS was the glory days before Windows existed.
Yes.
You don't get that. Let's destroy the Department of State. I would rather remember DOS, Microsoft DOS. As much as I hate Microsoft,
You can still go into DOS. It's just
I do. I have a DOS box.
Say.
Everyone should have a DOS box that allows you to play old DOS games. Oh man, I'm having a nostalgia trip.
Yeah, there's other stuff you can do, but in any case, yeah, the Department of State kind of at this point sucks, but hopefully that will change. In any case, at this point, I would say, this indicator here would make it the Department of Scams. So this is financial assistance. We're still in usaspending.gov. This is an award profile from I think I actually closed the tab. I had all the gender stuff on. I can find it again. It's all you got to do is go through and search, and it'll come back up again. But this is the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. If you really want to be shocked, go to this website and look up United Nations. There will be a ton. The United Nations, the amount of funding the United Nations has gotten from the United States, like we pay a fee to the United Nations that's like a membership fee. And people think of that as the only money the UN gets from us. But actually, we spend a huge amount of money funding United Nations programs and United Nations offices, United Nations departments. UN Women would not exist without U.S. money. So a lot of this stuff is it's bullshit to think that we could just we're going to stop paying our membership fees and that will solve the problem with the UN. No, every dollar the U.S. is sending to the UN needs to be cut off. And every dollar they want in the future needs to be justified and voted on by the American people. So this Department of State program to the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, we're going to scroll down here after much ado, ensure police officers effectively respond to gender-based violence-related crimes based on a gender-sensitive curriculum for police academies in priority states. So you remember when we got accused of being conspiracy theorists, paranoid conspiracy theorists for claiming that there was funding from the Violence Against Women Act that paid for training for police officers, right here, police officers, to use the Duluth model, to use feminist models to address domestic violence.
It's still happening in the UK.
Yeah.
It's gone way beyond men and women in the UK. It is at the point where the police will arrest you for misgendering someone on Twitter. And you know what that means? Calling someone by the correct generation gender. Gender is a pointless word, but you know what I mean.
Well, it's funny too because they'll do that if you misgender someone who is trans, right? But not if you misgender a female MRA.
Again, Hannah has been misgendered more than anyone I've ever known
on the planet.
Yeah, the difference
Good
between
Lord.
me and trans women though is I think it's funny when it happens to me. But
it's that people don't understand that Hannah is a girl's name. So many people see the name Hannah and they think, oh, it must be some fucking Scottish guy or some shit.
yeah. Nope, it's
a common name over here. I've met several Hannahs, but apparently it's quite rare in the Americas.
Yeah, if I pronounce it slightly differently, instead of being an English name for a girl, it's an Arabic name for a girl. In English, it's Hannah. In Arabic, it's Hannah. Also Jewish name for a girl, but it really stems from Arabic. So it's interesting. People will see that. And
I mean, my name is Hebrew as well.
Yeah, a lot of English names are actually. Not all though, but yeah, it's. But I don't think they look at my name. They just get mad at something I said, and if they don't like something I said, then I must be a dude. Can't possibly not like something a woman said.
Yeah, and it's easy enough to just use a fake name. I think that's probably a good percentage of the other people who who do that. It's lazy and it's just ridiculous, but that's how people are. Especially when you're saying things that they don't like.
Yeah.
It
would be pointless for me to use a fake name. I've been doxxed. That was years ago. So, but yeah, so this is one of the first things I wanted to talk about. This is the United States federal government, and I want to remind you this is the Department of State, all right, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. So this isn't just in the United States that they're doing this. This funding goes to pay it for this training to be exported to other countries. Right? They're exporting it to other countries after they did it here first. They're exporting it to all kinds of places all over the world. And what we've got coming up will show you some of what's going on there. But I wanted to establish this first because, again, this is a we told you so moment from the men's rights movement to everybody who called us conspiracy theorists and paranoid for saying that this was happening in the United States.
What's been uncovered over the last few weeks by Doge regarding USAID, whatever it is how much the US government has been pushing a certain ideology on the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And for most of my lifetime, this has been what the quote-unquote liberal left-leaning media has been pushing against. Like, they don't want the American government to be pushing their ideology onto the rest of the world, or indeed the European government, the various governments to be pushing their ideology on the rest of the world. We don't want any of this military-industrial complex. But if we're spending millions of dollars trying to turn everyone gay across the world, oh yeah, we're fine with that. Yeah, we're fine with trying to turn Serbians gay. We're fine with trying to turn Bangladeshis gay. We're fine with trying to turn the whole world gay. The vast majority of the world doesn't want to be turned gay, especially not by the American government. They don't trust the American government.
It's because the American government is gay.
It is, and it's
fake
trying
and gay.
It's trying to turn the whole world gay. But there's just this blind spot, especially when it comes to the mass media of of the West. They're like, oh yeah, we hate the colonialism of the West. Unless they try to turn everyone gay, and then you're a bigot if you don't want to turn the whole world gay and democratic. Yeah, that's how far it goes back. For 100 years, the West has been trying to turn the rest of the world democratic, and we've just been like, well, of course you have to be democratic. There's no other possibility. You can't. You have to be democratic, or we'll shoot you. To quote Alan Watts all those years ago. And yeah, it's not like the American right wing is trying to dominate the world with its ideology. It seems the American right wing is putting America first. Most people are just saying, yeah, no, just we want to be left to ourselves, and we want to leave you to yourselves. And within that paradigm, we can trade valuable goods with each other. But there's this faction of people that want to use the vast treasuries of the American government as confiscated from the American taxpayers to turn the whole world gay. And I'm like, this is why the whole world hates America. This is why the whole world hates Europe. It's not because of a spice trade from 100 years ago. It's because they're trying to turn the whole world gay.
It's because and the whole of the world spicy trade.
Doesn't want to become gay.
I had to. The spicy trade. Oh, shit. But you're right. We're in a situation now where we're being told that multiculturalism is a great and fabulous and wonderful thing, as long as when it comes to Western culture, it only includes the aspects that don't necessarily contribute in any way, shape, or form to the success of Western culture. Right? So, no capitalism, no innovation, no industrialism, no hard work, no, none of that, no rewarding merit over other aspects of your character and stuff like that. But definitely the idea of focusing on demographic over and above character. Definitely the idea of messing around with people's sexuality and focusing on sexuality, because apparently in a world where there is still food insecurity, who you fuck is way, way more important than where your next meal is coming from, for some reason. It's just the dumbest thing, and it is being deliberately exported by the people who tell us that they're trying to help the world. So, the United States has been paying to teach police in India, in Africa, all over every country that is affected by U.S. funding, in the Far East, in the Middle East, and in all over South America and parts of Europe, that if there is a situation of domestic violence or intimate partner violence, so to speak, then it's probably the man beating the woman to keep her subdued, to keep control over her. That if there's a drug crime or other such non-gendered crime taking place, and the partners involved happen to be a couple, well, he made her do it. He's the one that's at fault, right? Those are the kind of things that they're paying. They're paying to spread that all over the world. Instead of having police just investigate and get to the bottom of, all right, what happened, who committed the crime, and how long have they been committing this crime, and what can we do about it? It's all about blaming men and excusing or elevating women. So that's the first one. we have the next one. Let's see. We got to go back up here before, so we know who this is. This is the Department of State again. So the State Department does a lot of this. That's the other thing. Like we were looking at this last week, and we've been hearing a lot about USAID, right? USAID, which isn't very. They should have added an S at the end of that.
Yes, in my mind, I always say, the second S is silent.
Yeah. But this isn't USAID. This is the State Department. And we looked at some things last time. I think the Justice Department was one of them. Health and Human Services is another one. And we've seen some military stuff. In the patron-only after show, we have been looking at some maybe not necessarily feminist spending, but Uncle Sam's social media addiction, because Uncle Sam does have quite a heavily funded social media addiction. And, there's a few interesting things that we've located there. But in any case, this is the State Department funding UNFPA. So, you want to know what UNFPA is? UNFPA. Yeah. It is, let's see if I've got it right here. Yeah, the United Nations Population Fund. And I don't know why there's an F in the middle of it, but just to show you, here's my Google search. It does not come up United States, like, I don't know, United States fucking Population Fund. Like, I don't know. Why is there an F in here? I guess they put the F in population next. But this is not
it might be a
small...
German thing. Germans like to put P's and F's together.
Yeah, I don't know. But whatever it is, but then it would be pronounced Fopulation Fund.
I think maybe it's just a 4. But even still, why would you need to shove that F in there?
Yeah. That's because it's the government, and the government is especially good at shoving that F in there.
Yeah.
They shove that F in there. They shove it up as far as it can go. Unfuck all you guys. So we're looking at $242.8 million from 61 transactions to this recipient, total here, right? But the one that we're looking at specifically, this is scrolling back down. Provision of integrated sexual and reproductive health care, maternal health, mobile health, and gender-based violence prevention and response. So again, we're seeing this gender-based violence. So this is what you want to pay attention, because this is a terminology change from the last 10 years, from what they used to say, which was intimate partner violence. And there's a reason when they make these changes, right? Intimate partner violence specifically implies some form of relationship or some form of intention to have a relationship, at least on one party. So it's intimate partner violence if somebody stalks you and harasses you, even if you were never intimate partners. That person that is stalking you is trying to impose an intimate partner relationship that you don't want. Or somebody harassing you, trying to impose an intimate partner relationship that you don't want. That was always considered to be either intimate partner violence or sexual violence. So when they lumped intimate partner and sexual violence in together and started calling it IPNSV, that was a first step, because it sort of sexualizes intimate partner violence, and it domesticates sexual violence, makes it all sort of one big attack, and it lends itself to that idea that it's all related, and it's all this effort at patriarchal oppression of women and blah, blah, blah. So now, anytime there is a violent conflict, that has a man on one side or a male on one side and a female on the other side, it can now be called gender-based violence. If you are on the street and you see a purse snatching where somebody runs up to a woman, grabs her purse, and then runs off with it. One of the reasons I don't carry a purse, by the way. That's gender-based violence. Because it's usually men that take that kind of risk, that they're going to get their ass kicked by the person they're stealing from, or that they're going to get caught and arrested and jailed. It's not usually, women don't usually do that. They can, and there are times when women will steal from each other, especially in the bathroom. Like there's a hook on the inside of like bathroom stalls to hang your coat, and if you're female and you have any female friends that care at all about you, at least one of them has told you at some point, never hang your purse on that hook, because there are women who will go in and reach over the top, grab it, and run.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I never thought about that, because
Yeah.
I do that all the time, like, especially, like, at the airport, because I'm just never putting anything on the ground like that.
Yeah, because the ground is fucking filthy.
Yeah.
There is not enough of any type of chemical in the world to make me want to put things on the floor in any public bathroom, right? And there are women who will do that. You don't want to put it on the floor either, because then they can see it. And they'll reach under and grab it. And this is the other reason why I don't carry a purse, right? You set that down somewhere, on the floor, in a bathroom, on the counter. The counters are dirty, right? You go someplace public like a bus station and you set it on the seat. You don't know what else was sitting there. You don't know who else was sitting there. You don't know if it's got RSV on it or, anything. And by the time you get to the end of the day, you're just one day, your purse is covered in germs. Nasty. It's like the bottom of your shoes, man.
I watched a police body cam video where this guy, he was obviously homeless, but a very large man, a man of size.
Yeah.
And he was sitting on the bench. It's one of those benches where it's not like a solid surface. It's like got the grate, it's just the rails, and they're spread probably about maybe an inch or two apart or whatever. But he was sitting on the bench and he took a crap while he was sitting on the bench. And I mean, just thinking about that, if no one had caught him and no one had come to clean it up, I mean, besides obviously smelling, what was going on underneath, but if nobody cleans the bench itself off, right? Like the material can go through and hit the floor.
Yes.
But it also
end up with San Francisco.
Well, yes.
Yep.
But it also scrapes along the side. And if you're just unsuspecting, if they just pick up what's on the ground, you could still be sitting in someone else's poo. And that's just, I can't do it. It makes me never want to leave the house.
Yeah.
Like, ew. People are just nasty and weird, and I feel bad for people who are in that situation, when you're homeless and there's nowhere to go. But good Lord, we need to do better by our homeless people. And, as we're reading and learning about all the ways that our money is being wasted.
Yeah.
It just makes you weep for humanity,
imagine
right?
how much of that could be dedicated to mental health programs that would help people get back on their feet, or house them if they were not capable of getting back on their feet, or anything like that. And you would have money
instead of just giving that money to illegal aliens.
Yeah.
Who are going to fucking terrorize your neighborhood.
You could provide a lifetime of treatment for every person in the United States whose reason for being homeless is that they have a mental health condition that's preventing them from doing the things that they need to do to get out of that situation. And that includes people whose mental health condition is drug addiction or alcohol addiction or something else along those lines. You could fund that all the way and basically eliminate that problem in terms of the people that are in the situation right now. At least under the assumption that everybody that receives treatment will put effort into recovery, because that's not always the case. But you could do that, and you would have so much money left over that it would appear you could do it for the whole world. Right? With the money that the United States spends promoting gender-based violence as a concept and feminist jurisprudence and deciding, like, feminist jurisprudence is one of the reasons why when a country creates a set of laws that formulate a welfare system, that country then has stipulations within the welfare system that the woman of the house has to pick up the free food and she gets to distribute it as she sees fit. Stuff like that. But yeah, so that's where we are with this one. And we will look really quickly here. This is, like I said, $242.8 million awarded to this organization over time. And let's see if I can find it. This goes back, the earliest year that's showing in this chart is 2008. So in 2008, they got nothing. But they've gotten different awards, different years for different things in different amounts. And you can see that as it got more recent here, they've had suddenly these much larger amounts. So the bulk of what they've had came through last year and the year before. Between those last 2 years, that's almost the entirety of everything they've ever received from the federal government. And we look at who they are. This is the most eyesore. Like, I don't know who designed this website, but fuck them, because my eyes hurt now.
I feel like I'm looking at an optical illusion.
Yeah.
Like something should be skewing into diagonal lines right now.
Yeah, so remember last week we found an organization that was promoting, a couple of organizations actually, that were promoting male genital mutilation in Africa. So we have this one, Patterns of Hope Inside the Movement to End Female Genital Mutilation. Right? So I thought, okay, these guys are clearly anti-genital cutting, right?
There is one too many words in that sentence.
Yeah, one too many words. They didn't
and the
need
word is
to gender
female.
it, right? And so, is it gendered on their part? So I start looking, and yeah, oh yes, all of their funding, they say, is voluntary. They're counting funding that's from our tax dollars that's confiscated and sent to them. That's voluntary, guys. You voluntarily sent them money you didn't know you were sending them. But yeah, there we go back up to the top here.
Well, just like a fucking, I don't want to say feminist because this is really more of a woman thing. When they sleep with a guy and then they regret it afterwards and claim that it was rape. Well, I'm being financially raped. I didn't voluntarily give anybody shit. I want my money back.
Mm-hmm.
Pricks.
So they have this program. Don't you dare. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor or not. And it's only on that page. So it is, Google's mad. Stop that! Seriously? There we go. Okay. joint program on the elimination of female genital mutilation. And in case you don't know that if you want to read the rest of the page, you have to scroll down. They have this stupid animated thing over here that is probably the reason my computer froze. But they have publications, annual reports, they have partnerships and funding. They're active in multiple countries here. You notice their target areas, 18 different countries where this is common, and it's done a lot for religious reasons. So religion is not an excuse when it's girls, right? It's been going on since 2008. Coincidentally, that's when the United States started giving them money. Right? And they have...
People talk about voter ID like it affects mostly black people. People even talked about fucking... COVID. I'm just going to say... And they
I think we can say it now.
In ways... It's bad because it affects black people more than it affects white people. And they come up with all kinds of these things, like... If you crack down on crime, it affects black people more than it affects white people. And I'm just trying to remember what it was that. Wait, what's the subject again? Because
female genital mutilation. So in other
that's
words,
the one.
Yes. Only when it happens to girls, not when it happens to boys. That's what their focus is.
Yeah, and if they were to really approach the subject of circumcision, which is a euphemism for male genital mutilation, if they were really to approach the subject of infant genital mutilation, it would affect the USA a lot because like 50% of them.
Yep.
Are quote unquote circumcised. But in Africa, it's even worse, especially Northern Africa and especially areas just to the south of the Sahara. So, and yet then when you try to speak out against circumcision, they never say that's racist because most of the circumcisions in the world are in fact in Africa and the Middle East. They don't care. They don't even care that it affects American males a lot. They just keep finding ways to skew it in the direction of women are the victims of everything. Even though,
in fact, they've actually protested against it affecting American men less now than it used to.
FGM is extremely rare in the world. Yeah, there's there's a lot of countries in North Africa and the Middle East where it's practiced, but it's nothing compared with how many countries in the world practice male genital mutilation, which is all we should ever call it. It's in North Africa, it's in the Middle East, it's in America, it's in Europe to a lesser extent, depending on the country, but it's a problem here as well. It still goes on. It should be illegal in many countries. It is illegal, but it is still practiced.
Yeah.
There are things we can do to prevent male genital mutilation in all of these countries, but it's not done. There are things we can do to prevent female genital mutilation in Europe and America, and it's get rid of the fucking Muslims. But we're not going to do that either. We're just going to concentrate on all the countries where it's nothing but Muslims, or nothing but whatever flavor of ideology that allows you to mutilate the genitals of children and get away with it. But yeah, it's never to do with protecting the children. It's never to do with preserving the mental health of the children. It kind of seems to be about expanding these Western ideas of protect the women and attack the men all over the place. And it's the same thing with the US AID. Like, as long as we can be seen to be protecting the women and butchering the genitals of the men, it's all fine. It's all fine, and we just need to wring the throats of these foreign countries and say, stop abusing women. Please do continue abusing men.
Yeah.
So did either of you see on X that Elon, when he changed his name to Harry Balls, he also changed his bio to say circumcision's 50% off.
Yeah.
And not to say that he's gonna step in and fix everything, you know what I mean? Good Lord knows that he's got enough on his plate. But it makes me wonder if he's even aware of the conversation that's being had around male genital mutilation, because that's what it is. I hate calling it circumcision.
I think he might be, because that's a pun. 50% off.
It was obviously a joke. And
yeah,
like what he's doing is he's making fun of the procedure of doing the procedure. Like, you guys are doing this terrible thing. We could do it better. 50% off.
Yeah. I mean, being that he comes from South Africa, I would guess, my best guess would be to say that he is not mutilated in that way.
But he is probably aware of the scam that the U.S. has been running there for the longest time.
Yes.
I mean, you never know. He's aware of, like I said, the creeping ivy of the scam, but I don't think he's yet aware of the seeds of the scam. The
details on all the leaves. What's interesting is, like, you see this, right? And we see this from all kinds of organizations, and they have all this type of statement. Every single one of them is, this program is so great. We've been doing this for this many years. These many people are involved, right? In partnership with governments, NGOs, and the private sector, blah, blah, blah. And they give their reasons. Female genital mutilation, they say, is a violation of human rights and is never safe, with immediate health risks that can span a lifetime, including chronic pain, infections, increased risk of childbirth complications, and psychological trauma. And then there's like this whole page of stuff, right? But there's more, right? So I what are these people doing in regard to, like they have this thing on female genital mutilation. What is their stance on male genital mutilation? So I Googled it because I couldn't find it on their website. Right?
Women like the way cut penises look, so that's all they need to know.
Yeah. So I went with male circumcision because I knew it wouldn't come up as male genital mutilation, right? United Nations Population Fund, quote, male circumcision in the Google search. And the AI overview is based on the available information that is found. It combines it all into this statement of this is what the documentation online or the articles online say. So it'll have looked at UNFPA. It'll have looked at their website and found it where I couldn't find it. And then also any news reports from the web about what they've been doing and everything. The United Nations Population Fund has supported voluntary medical male circumcision, and they refer to it as VMMC. So we have female genital mutilation, which they are fighting, but when you cut the skin off of a baby boy, then it's voluntary medical male circumcision. And they're promoting the canard that it reduces HIV transmission.
Oh my God.
Then they say they promote a human rights-based approach to VMMC. So I just want to remind you, right? They said, down here, FGM is a violation of human rights. Now, feminists fight female circumcision, female genital mutilation, to the degree that if a woman decides that she wants to have a procedure done, and it doesn't matter whether it's the most dramatic or the least dramatic, or even there's a thing they do now where it's a symbolic circumcision, but they don't actually do a circumcision. They just take a pin and they draw a drop of blood. That's it. In comparison to circumcision, it's pretty tame. I still wouldn't want that done to my child. Like, you keep your pins and needles away from my kid. If my kid doesn't need medication that has to be injected, you know, you can fuck right the hell off with that shit. All right? But I say this like I still got little kids. My kids are all old enough to drink and old enough to get married, old enough to... I'm a grandma, so there you go. But
old enough to have had 12,000 foreskins removed from their body.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out the math. 8 days old. Through to 18 years old. How many foreskins are they legally allowed to remove from their body at that point?
Yeah.
You know, what really, really ticked me off when you were reading what you were reading before is the fact that they can realize that there's, even to the point of psychological trauma, when it's done to females. Why can't they? Why is that not something that you can admit that will happen to a boy when you do it to him? Because it absolutely does have psychological trauma. It leaves a psychological scar.
And physical.
Right. But no, they use excuses in the book. Oh, he's a baby. Oh, he'll forget it. Oh, you don't have any memories when you're that young. Fuck you. Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. You know, and it's just so, it infuriates me.
It wouldn't even matter if they don't remember it. You don't have to remember a traumatic experience for it to be traumatic for the rest of your life. But this is the interesting thing, right? So the thing is that they cited as reasons that it's a human rights violation for women, right? They call them barriers to voluntary male medical circumcision. Pain is a barrier, right? Complications can include, what's this list they had here? Immediate health risks that can span a lifetime, including chronic pain, infections, increased risk, obviously not childbirth complications, but sexual complications for men, and psychological trauma. Those are complications. So when you're doing it to little girls, it's a human rights violation. When you do it to little boys, it's complications.
It's a complication. Oh my God.
And they're promoting this with our money. And they have no excuse to not know that it's wrong. Because when you do it to a girl, they damn well know that it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They are gathering a lot of money to fight it when it's done to girls. And then they're promoting it when it's done to boys. Yeah.
It really, I can't deal with it. I can't deal with the anger, the level of anger that it invokes in me. It really pisses me off. You know what I mean? I don't understand how anyone could think that, especially a mother, like, you just gave birth to this child that you love more than anything in the world. Oh yeah, let's just go take a knife, a scalpel to the most sensitive part of this child that I just gave birth to. You know, there's a chance that he may not survive the procedure. On top of the fact that you have to pay thousands of dollars to have it done. Oh, but I want him to look like his father.
Yeah.
Women like it better. Who gives a fuck what women like? Do you think that women are not going to fuck a dick if it's not circumcised? Of course not. You know what I mean? Do you think any woman who is that hungry, like, if she wants to have a child, she's just, ew, get that thing away from me? No. No!
It's actually a good litmus test. If a woman won't have anything to do with you because you have not been scarred for life down there, then she's probably not a good match for you and isn't good wife material. Like, that's a good way to eliminate a prospect right there. But, and of course, if she thinks it's okay to do it to you, she'll think it's okay to do it to your son.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I found out that my son was going to be a son, and I had to start looking into this because obviously you wouldn't have to consider it in the United States if you were having a girl, because we don't have that here. Although there was a judge in Michigan that ruled that since male circumcision is okay, it's discrimination to punish someone for performing a female circumcision. So that was interesting. But the first thought that I had with regard to this, was like, all right, at that time, I had not heard the myth that it prevents HIV transmission. Right? So I had heard nothing that provides any idea for a benefit to this. And I'm reading about it, and I'm like, you're telling me the immune system has not formed during the first few days of after birth, right? So the child does not have any defense if germs are introduced. In fact, the child's immune system partly relies on antibodies that go through mother's milk. So nursing, instead of using formula, for instance, it's not always an option. Once in a while, a woman can't nurse, but it's very important, if you can, that you do, so that your baby gets that initial boost to an immune system. But during the first couple days, if some kind of bacteria or virus is introduced, your child has little to no defenses against that. It's incredibly dangerous. Unbelievably. Babies die from that in the first few days after birth. And I remembered learning, growing up, that the largest organ in your immune system, also the largest organ in your body, is your skin. And it's the first line of defense against contact exposure, physical contact exposure to bacteria and viruses, right? So, obviously, inside a baby's diaper, there's going to be urine and feces on a regular basis. That's what the diaper's for. And it gets everywhere. It's not stationary, right? Baby poo is not...
It's not like a log.
Yeah, you don't get a log. You get gray poupon. And it goes everywhere. And if it's, like if your kid gets sick, it goes out the back of the diaper and everything. So it
is viscous, as they say.
It's some sick kid sometimes gets 3 or 4 baths a day.
Yes.
But in any case, so it's going to have feces on it. If you have a circumcision done, the open wound is going to have feces on it, and even if you bandage it to prevent that, it's going to have urine on it because urine is coming out of the tip when the child pees.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no safe circumcision. And right there, I was just like, I don't want to do this, And the more I looked into it, the more I realized there's no justification for doing this at an age where it takes away his decision-making process on it. Like you can't put it back later. If he gets to be older and he's like, I wish that you hadn't done that. There would be nothing I could do, right? And so I brought all this to my husband and I'm like, this is what I have learned. And, we talked about it, and he's looking into information, and we basically were like, this is bullshit. We're not doing this. He can decide that when he gets older if he wants to. And that was pretty much, it was all a common sense process. It was all about what's safe, what should be his choice, and what's completely not justified to do. And I don't understand anybody taking a different thought process. When I started reading, the first thing I thought when I started reading that there's special HIV receptor cells in the foreskin, I thought, what kind of magic bullshit mumbo jumbo is this crap? Because that would have been a couple of years after he was born, like toddler age, and I read it in some parenting magazine, and I'm like, where the fuck is this coming from? Like, what the hell is a special AIDS receptor cell? And so I start reading into it and everything, and there was not any evidence to back that claim up anywhere. It was a theory that was postulated by individuals who basically decided that since the foreskin is folded up and covered, over, and like when the penis contracts, it's all bunched up, that germs could hide in the little folds, and those would be the special AIDS receptor cells. And I was like, well, nobody's going to fall for that, right? Nobody's going to fall for that bullshit. But it didn't occur to me that there would be U.S. federal government-funded organizations promoting it in third world countries where people are not as well educated, so that they could harvest foreskins for the cosmetic industry here.
It's mind-blowing. And you wouldn't even need funding. You wouldn't even need a grant to try to pull this over on the American population. I mean, most of us, I would like to think that most of us, would look at that and say, well, this 2 + 2 is not equaling 5. That doesn't make sense, but we have bred a society that is only focused on their basic desires, right? They all they think about is food and sex, right? The things that make them feel good.
Yeah.
And then what happens? They have kids, and they're not equipped, right? They don't have the education. They're not equipped with that education. They're not going to teach their children any goddamn thing, because all it is just put the good things in your mouth and stick this thing in that thing because it makes me feel good. Right. That's the level, right? That is it. They don't think any further than that, so why would they even bother to question anything about being told, oh, well, circumcision prevents AIDS, right? You don't even have to do that psyop on these people because they're so stupid they would just believe it.
Yes, in order to do the magic thing, you have to cut the tip off the magic wand.
Yeah.
And I guess wave it around and shit too, but first you have to definitely have to cut off the tip of the magic wand to make the magic work. Yeah.
But I mean, we can't even get to the details of things like that. It's like it begins and ends at, well, like it the way it looks. They don't like the way a human penis looks. They don't like it.
It's the ultimate iteration of chicks dig scars.
Yes.
Right.
My God, yes.
The thing that really gets me about this, though, is the blatant federal promotion, international promotion of gynocentrism. Because that's basically what this is, right? You have this organization, and these are not the only things that this organization does. They have things that could be considered good things, right? They promote medical facilities in various places where it is hard for people to get health care. But then when you look into it, there's that gynocentric attitude again. Well, this is for women. Right?
Well, shit.
Men
Planned
have
Parenthood.
biology. They have bodies, and their bodies get injured or sick.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They age. They have reproductive health. They can get STIs. But somehow, public health, mobile health, and most of all, reproductive health are deemed for women.
Right. Right. I mean, shit, Planned Parenthood does breast cancer screening, but they also, the major thing that they do is kill babies.
Right.
So, like, it doesn't matter if they do one good thing if what they spend the rest of their goddamn existence doing is murder.
Well, and then the other thing is, even if that was not the case, even if they were not promoting abortion, which they are, this organization, by the way, because they have it mentioned among the things that they had mentioned there. But even if they weren't doing that, even if they weren't promoting male genital mutilation, despite knowing that it is a human rights violation, it would be bad enough that in their promotion of healthcare, in their funding of healthcare facilities and treatments, doctors, nurses, and so on, they're focusing strictly on women. They're promoting the idea that women have needs and men just have obligations. So the U.S. is paying through this organization to promote gynocentrism. And it isn't child-centrism, right? It's not passing on your DNA. It's not survival of the species. It's straight up, completely dysfunctional, no point other than to elevate women above men, gynocentrism.
Mm-hmm.
And Go Monkey Go says it's not gynocentrism, it's Judaism and Zionism. Here's the problem. It's not all being promoted by Jews.
Right.
It is to the point now where there is an entire industry that capitalizes on this. So if you look up online the price of something called neonatal foreskin fibroblasts, you'll find that the companies that sell them also sell other skin samples and cell samples and stuff, but there's a disproportionate profit from neonatal foreskin fibroblasts.
It's Jews and Muslims. It needs to be said.
Well,
it
yeah,
is
and
Jews
it is Muslims.
and Muslims.
But it's Christians too.
And
Yeah, they've fallen for
secular.
it. Yeah.
And secular. This is the thing people don't realize. Secular promotion of circumcision is a result of the ability to sell foreskin fibroblasts.
Right.
Right, to industries that, and there are some things they use them for that, you know, people will be like, well, at least they're using them for something that benefits humanity, because they use them to treat burns. But you can use fish skin for that. You don't have to use. In fact, you know, my dad had a 3rd-degree burn that fish skin was used to treat, so they don't need foreskin fibroblasts for that. So if it does get used for that, it's not because they need it. But yeah, it gets used for facials. It gets used for hair treatments. It gets used in cosmetics. And women are putting this. Most of the women you know are dick faces. Right? Their makeup has something in it that was originally on a baby's dick.
Yeah, it's not just Jews, it's not just Muslims, it's not just Christians, it's not just atheists. All of these groups have fallen to this idea that you can just mutilate the genitals of male babies, and it's fine. And if you make an inordinate amount of money from the resources that you have cut away from male babies' dicks, it's like it's practically universal at this point. Certainly among the Abrahamic religions and the atheistic offshoots from those Abrahamic religions.
Yeah.
Like it's not just religions, it's feminism. And that's only if feminism doesn't count as a religion.
I think it counts more as a cult.
Yeah.
It's no coincidence that the cults that turned into religions have landed at the same place as the cults that have not yet turned into religions.
Yeah.
It's like anyone can remove this the skin of a male baby's genitals and just be like okay with it. Evidently, it's nothing to do with the religion. Evidently, it's nothing to do with your culture.
Yeah.
This abhorrence of nature can happen to any culture, as long as you just don't give a flying fuck about the well-being of male human beings. That's what it is, and this is why we keep banging on this drum, because it doesn't matter what name you give to the creator of the universe. Like, it really shouldn't, and but apparently it does. As long as it results in you being able to mutilate the genitals of male babies, like atheists do it, Muslims, Christians, Jews, everyone does it. Should that not tell you something? That the fundamental problem is not with any given religion. The fundamental problem is whatever fucking ideology it is you have that allows you to mutilate male genitals and just feel perfectly fine about it. Like, this is not a religious war we're waging. It's a war between two factions. One faction that thinks you can do whatever the fuck you like to men and it's okay, and this other somewhat marginalized, dare I say, ideology that says no, you can't do whatever you like to men and it's fine. It's actually, I know it sounds weird, but no, you can't just do whatever you like to men in the name of fucking progress or war or whatever.
It's not fun.
See, the thing is that, you know, if mutilating their genitals gave men more pleasure, they wouldn't be into, no one would be okay with it, right? It wouldn't even be a fucking thing, right? Irrespective of religion. But what really blows my mind, you know, is when it comes to the Christians, and they use the Bible as the justification for cutting up male children. And I mean, I'm sorry, but isn't your God supposed to be omnipresent, omnipotent, and all knowing, all powerful, all every? Why do you think that your God made a mistake? And I'm not sure because I'm not religious. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is in the Bible that it says that God says you have to do this thing, right? Like, I don't know what the chapter and verse is, but how in the world can you be how is this your religion, right? Like, how do you love this God? This is your God. Your God is all knowing, all powerful, perfect. This is the way, and God is Jesus is king, all that shit, right? But God is so stupid that he screwed up your baby. And now you have to go and fix God's work. Make that make sense. Make that make sense.
It's not the theory behind Jewish circumcision. That's supposed to be considered a sacrifice.
Yes.
And so I understand where that's coming from and everything. But obviously I don't agree with imposing it on children. And it didn't used to be done on the level that it is now. It didn't used to be, for lack of a better description, high and tight. That used to be much more minor in terms of the cut. Not that that necessarily fixes the problem, but the point of it essentially was to differentiate them from everybody else and to make a statement of obedience that you're creating a sacrifice in order to prove that you are that loyal to your God, that you're giving up something valuable and a part of your person that you'll have a reminder for the rest of your life. And there's other religions that practice ritual scarification. And, like, my thinking on it is, I don't like any of it. It's not better if it's some other part of the body, and it's not better if it's that part of the body. What bugs me is that it's done to children against their will. And
exactly.
Before they're old enough to make that decision themselves.
Exactly. But these my body, my choice motherfuckers, somehow, for some reason, they can't wrap that around their fucking heads when it comes to, I don't know, an infant? Huh? Jesus. It I'm sorry. It makes me just like unbelievably angry, and I just I need to not talk about this anymore because
I will say the thing about the so-called receptor cells and everything. One of the things that I will point out is this: being circumcised actually makes a guy less likely to be comfortable using a condom, right? Nothing comes into contact with those cells if you got a condom on. So it's a moot point. But that 2014 study was pretty well debunked later on. It was demonstrated that the individuals who did the study engaged in a whole bunch of ethics violations in the course of the study, and they also just blatantly attribute the effects of condom use to circumcision without any evidence at all.
Just so stupid. And our taxpayer money is going to fund this thing.
And it went to fund that study too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I just don't get it. I don't get it. I could.
I know you
I
could talk about this all night. We have one more to look at though, so I'm gonna move on from the cut here, and like I said, this taints everything this organization does. It's not just the circumcision aspect that taints it. It's the gynocentrism. You know, when you say, well, we're going to provide health care, but we're gonna make it female centric, and we're going to make the bulk of the resources available to women only. You're not providing health care. You're providing a resource for women, and you should just admit that. It's gendered. So the next one that we have here, again, the Department of State. State Department was pretty busy with this shit, right? We now have, this is the Pan American Development Foundation Incorporated. And we will look here. They had, their funding was not as high as the previous organization, but theirs,
$500,000.
Yeah, theirs was conduct an assessment of prior, this is international programming, on gender-based violence in Latin America to provide recommendations for future programming. Objectives: institutionalize rule of law by developing and expanding criminal justice systems to strengthen partner country law enforcement and judicial effectiveness, foster cooperation in legal affairs, and advance respect for human rights. And by human rights, they mean women's rights. They don't mean human rights. And so they're looking at, again, gender-based violence. They're promoting this in Latin America. So I'm like, all right, who are these guys? And again, I just searched their name, and their website came up. And this is what for one of the first things I saw. Participatory meeting of women's organizations from Latin America and the Caribbean. So, the Pan American Development Foundation partnered with Equality Now. We've seen them before, but just as a reminder, we'll look here. Equality Now.
I have to wonder what Pan American means.
Pan American means across the continents.
Yeah,
America.
like Pan African.
Yeah. But
and one day they hope to pan the entire world, right?
Yes, pretty much. So this Equity Now partner organization they're with is basically a feminist jurisprudence promoting organization. They actually go into other countries and manipulate the laws in those other countries. Here's where it says international network of lawyers, activists, and supporters. So, you know, basically activists, some of which know how to manipulate the law. Yeah. Popping Hullaballoons points out that was in Karen's Nafault video, feminism disregards men's humanity. So when they say human rights, they only have to mean women because they don't think of men as human.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have changed laws. They have expanded, here we go, feminist legal expertise. That's feminist jurisprudence. 76 trainings and workshops. 39 million women and girls worldwide, they've said. And they call it improving access to justice, but it basically means access to legal power.
And you can donate as if your fucking taxpayer money isn't enough.
Yeah,
you
and
can
it's
give
all
us
over the place,
more.
right? There's 3 donation buttons right here.
Oh,
right?
Fuck these people. Jesus.
Yep, and they're looking at, so if you look at trafficking, for instance, human trafficking, that happens to both sexes, including sexual human trafficking. One of the things that people don't know is that among traffickers who exploit women, there is a large contingent that are women. Women traffic women. But yeah,
Cough,
sexual
cough, Ghislaine
exploitation.
Maxwell.
Yep. Then we have, the stuff that most people would be like, oh yes, rape is bad. We're definitely going to support this because they're opposing rape and we oppose rape. Therefore, and wife beating is bad and they oppose wife beating. We oppose wife. Then we get to this part right here. End harmful practices. The term harmful practices. This is not letting me show this stupid header is hiding the text. I'll just read it, but it's right behind Lauren. End harmful practices. The term harmful practices. Jeez, the donation button's covering it up. It covers forms of violence or ritual discrimination primarily committed against girls and women that had become culturally normalized. So, at first you think, I'm opposed to targeting women with, but there is no form of violence or ritual discrimination that is unique to women. And I say this even though there are cultures with guardianship, which is similar to coverture. And the reason I say that is because every type of discrimination that feminists call anti-woman discrimination goes both ways in some way or another. Women, for every not allowed women have, men have an obligation. That if a woman is allowed to do the thing they're not allowed to do, they may interfere with the man meeting that obligation. One of Karen's favorite examples is if a man is obligated to pay all of the household taxes, then he should have the right to decide whether people whose taxes he would be responsible for are allowed to earn money that he has to pay taxes on, but can't touch. So, in countries with guardianship, if a man allows his wife to get a job, she gets the job, she earns a paycheck, he's not allowed to take her money, but he has to pay taxes on it. So, if say he's, he does road work, works for a construction crew, and let's say he makes the equivalent of 40,000 American dollars a year. And that's probably way lowballing it for a lot of construction work because that's dangerous work and so there would be hazard pay, but let's say 40,000. And let's say she goes into some cushy human resources thing. She has a degree and she works in an office with sexist air conditioning and shit. And maybe she gets paid 80,000 American dollars equivalent per year. And maybe she decides that she's not going to hand over any of it for taxes. So now he's paying taxes on his 40,000, plus he's paying more taxes on her 80,000. And he's still obligated to support her, and she doesn't have to spend any of that money on the family. She can just keep it all for herself if she wants to. Right? So it's fair under that circumstance because of his obligations to say if she wants to get a job, she has to get his permission. Feminists would call that discrimination against women. In my opinion, and I think Karen's expressed pretty much the same thing, Allison's expressed pretty much the same, that's discrimination against both sexes, right? It'd be fair if the obligations were removed from his end. He doesn't have to pay her taxes, and any obligation to support the family falls equally on both the husband and the wife. Well then, okay, she can get a job without his permission. That would be an end to a harmful practice. But these feminists, what they do, they don't go in and say, well, let's get rid of all these stipulations and simplify things. Yes, she can get a job. She has to pay her own taxes. And if she has income, she is as responsible with her income as he is with his for supporting their family. Their family has to come first. Or maybe we don't tell people how to spend their money. But they don't do that. It's well, we want to keep those obligations in place. A man should have to support his wife, and women have less freedom in this country, so it's only fair that he has to pay her taxes and support her. But she should be able to get a job without his permission. It's discrimination if she gets told no. Right? And that's what these types of organizations promote. So that's what the organization that we were just looking at is partnered with. So we go back to this. So there it is. So this participatory meeting, this was from 2023, the Pan-American Development Foundation organized a bunch of different feminist organizations into this meeting. An organization of American States General Assembly. And then when they say American states, they don't mean the 50 states of the United States. They mean Brazil and Mexico and the United States, Canada, everything in between, Guatemala, El Salvador, every place that had any feminist organizations could send representatives to this meeting. And so what the first thing the meeting aimed to, and this is all coded language again, increase access to resources and advocacy strategies for women's rights organizations. Right? Build relationships between women's rights organizations from Latin America and the Caribbean, and key U.S.-based organizations and institutions. So what does that mean? Well, the first one means they had a meeting to figure out how to increase their grift. They had a meeting to figure out how to extort more money from establishment governments and establishment organizations, businesses, charities like the Ford Foundation and the Carnegie Foundation and how to get George Soros money. Right? And that was the first topic of their meeting. How do we get more money? And the second topic was, how do we network? How do we conspire? Right? We paid for that. We paid for a feminist meeting on how to get more money out of us. And how to conspire with each other as a network in order to more effectively grift on our dime. You guys are both muted. I was going to give you a chance to talk.
I can't even. I'm spent. I hate them. I hate using that word. I really don't like using that word because the opposite of love is not hate. It is indifference.
Yeah.
I despise these people. I despise what they do. I think it is just beyond the pale. And as far as I'm concerned, people are questioning whether or not Elon Musk deserves to be in there and what is he doing and what are his intentions. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. You can have all of my information. If you go after these bastards and you pull their money, I'll be happy with that. Fine. I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
This is absolutely ridiculous.
It begs the question, if Elon isn't allowed to be there, then why are any of these niggas allowed to be there? I mean, y'all in America are just beginning to scratch the surface of the corruption in your government. And I'm sat here, having to return to my European government in 2 days or so, thinking, well, these niggas just still doing all the same shit.
And it's getting worse. It's getting worse. But even
Brexit didn't do it.
Yeah.
While Trump was getting elected to his first term, Britain was getting its Brexit, and we thought that this would have comparable effects on the bureaucracy of our respective continents, but evidently it wasn't. I mean, in neither case, because Trump's 4 years didn't really achieve much. But now that you're getting dark Trump, you're finally getting some shit changing. But back here in Europe, I say back here, I'm still in the USA, thankfully, for the next 2 days. But soon I'll have to go back. And yeah, in Europe, we're not even getting initial Trump, let alone dark Trump. The problem is still persistent.
Yeah, no, you guys are like quadrupling down on the problem.
Yeah, even despite Brexit, the whole point of Brexit was to prevent this shit from happening. Unfortunately, we even though we exited from the bureaucracy of the EU, we still have the bureaucracy of the
Two-tier Keir.
Two-tier Keir, yes, that sort of thing. And it wasn't just Keir; it was Boris.
Mm-hmm.
It was fucking Theresa. It was fucking David Cameron. It was fucking Tony Blair and all of that shit. This has been going on for 30 years. Wait, no, about 30 years.
You might possibly have your own kudzu plant.
Yes.
Yeah, and I hold out hope that we can get the same treatment that you're getting. Much like Germany holds out hope that they can get the AfD in the next election. Much like all kinds of European countries hope that they can get anything resembling the blessings that you all are getting in the Americas. And I don't just mean Trump. I mean Bukele in El Salvador, or indeed Milei in Argentina. Afuera. We all want our version of afuera. It's America's only just getting. I mean, the USA is only just getting its version of afuera. We all want our version of afuera. Like the whole world, except China. China doesn't want afuera. China wants, I don't know how you translate this. China wants everything of the state and in the state.
Yeah, China.
You might call it fascism. I mean, the East is going exactly what these bastards might call fascism. Whereas Europe and America are only just pulling themselves out of anything that could be called fascism. It's just so ironic that the fascism we're dealing with in the 21st century is left-wing fascism. Wait, what? That doesn't make any sense, Mike. How could there be such a thing as left-wing fascism? Well, yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you block yourself off from the existence of the idea of left-wing fascism. Everything within the state and of the state. How could that be leftism? Yeah. That's what leftism is. That's what leftism has been for the last 30 years. Everything within the state, everything of the state. But how could that be fascism? There's no such thing as left-wing fascism. No, there is. There is. It's what's been happening for like 50 years. Left-wing fascism. Everything within the state and of the state. And hating the population that's supposed to be served by the state.
Yep.
That's what's happening. It's just so hard for boomers to understand. It's even hard for Gen Xers to understand. How could the TV be lying to us this much? How could the newspapers be lying to us this much? Surely no one could possibly lie to us this much. I mean, I totally don't trust the government, right? But the government wouldn't lie to us this much. Yeah, no, they would. They always have.
And the kick in the ass is that they owe their very existence to us. And yet, what are they doing? They are turning around and putting the knife right in our backs and expecting a bigger tip.
Well, they're running a scam. And
yeah.
The fact is that everything that needs afuera, everything that needs to be cast out, exorcised, so to speak, feminism, gynocentrism, is the wedge that has been used to pry open the otherwise secure, airtight attitudes we would have about individuality and freedom and civil rights and so on, to shove that shit down our throats.
Mm-hmm.
Pry shit open and in it goes. And now our country is having to vomit all this stuff out. And it's going to continue, and it's going to have moments where people are going to be like, well, this is painful. I don't know if I signed up for this much pain. But if you don't go through it, well, it's just like dealing with a physical addiction. This country is going to go through safety net withdrawal. It's going to go through economic security, false economic security, by the way, withdrawal. It's going to go through
God willingly, yeah.
withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to go through government babysitter withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
And people are going to... There will be people that are going to feel like they regret this. But if you hold the line...
Won't be me.
And you stick with it, on the other side of that is a much stronger and much more secure existence.
Mm-hmm.
You
Absolutely.
don't have to rely on somebody else to take care of you because you can take care of yourself. Then somebody else can't let you down.
Absolutely. And you know what I love about this term, Trump's second term now, is that, you know, we know that he won't be back in office again, right?
Right.
Even if I don't think any of his children are really poised to take the position, I just don't see any of that happening, right? Like Barron,
I'm hoping J.D. Vance will run.
I would love to see that happen. I absolutely would love to see that happen. There's going to be major pushback, but again, I don't think the Democrats will be ready,
right,
and have a candidate that a viable candidate within this amount of time, because they are knocking our front teeth out, right? They are just absolutely balls to the wall, exposing everything. And I think that is part of Trump's plan, right? Because this, you know, and again, I hated the 2020 election. I hated the results of that. But if that never happened, we would not be in this position right now. Trump would have been just way more complacent, you know, just trying to see out the rest of his term. But now there's a fire in his belly that is just, you can't buy this, right? This is just, it's the perfect fucking storm. I think he had the past 4 years to sit back and really understand what he's doing, right? This whole Doge thing, like that 4chan meme that I posted about the USDS, that's absolutely true. Okay, this system was in place. Trump just came in, took it over, refined it, renamed it, and these Democrats can't do a fucking thing. They are toothless against this I don't want to say regime, this administration. They are absolutely toothless against it. They can't do anything but boo-hoo, whine, and cry about whatever Trump is doing. And that's perfect. You know, I think he is using this as his I think he understands, you know, that after this 4 years, it's a toss-up. Because as much as we would like to see J.D. Vance go in there, it's not a guarantee. But what he's doing is opening everyone's eyes to the disruption, right? To the absolute just greed and
The grift.
it's yeah it and they are the Democrats are defenseless against it, and it's beautiful because even they are waking up. Not all of them, you still have the Ayanna Presleys and all these black Democrats, the Maxine Waters,
The woman who has
just
had the same fart held inside of her nostrils for the last 50 years.
yes. They are so feebly clawing and trying to do anything that they can. I mean, I saw a video. These people are, they were talking about Elon in the Oval Office, right? That presser that they did. Oh, well, Elon got to say 3,467 words, and Trump only said 2,525 words. Oh my God, JD Vance couldn't even get that off. Like, are you serious? This is the level. This is where
things that people don't understand about JD Vance. He doesn't need to be verbose. He gets his point across very concisely and quickly and poignantly, and he doesn't mince words. He doesn't waste words.
He does not. And so that's why I'm very hopeful for him, and if he does decide to move forward. And I think they are building a great team behind him. I think that it could only go in that direction. But listen, you saw what happened to Obama, right? Like, Obama in 2008 looked completely different.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
At the end of his presidency,
the man
right?
Aged like 20 years in 8 years.
Oh my God, yes, he did. So there's a lot of stress that comes along with the responsibilities, understandably so. And Vance has young children, but I don't know. I don't know if I believe that he has the mettle to do it. I believe that he is built of sterner stuff. I think that he will want to, because he also sees the value in what the Trump administration is doing. So, I would love to see it happen. And I think that this whole thing with Doge and exposing all of this government wasteful spending is just going to change the polarity of everything.
Yeah,
right?
I do too. And people are starting to realize, especially like young men are starting to realize, this is our future being mortgaged. This is the effect of this on, this is a situation men most affected. The effect of this on women is not anywhere near the same, because most of these taxes are going to pay for benefits for women. They're paying for women's safety nets, and they're paying for, like we're seeing here, promotion of feminist philosophies that are designed to, for the most part, they're designed to persuade establishment entities to reserve resources for women over and above for men. So any taxes that women pay, one way or another, they're getting something back out of it. Whereas taxes that men pay are mostly going to benefit women and women's organizations.
Yeah. We just have to hope that that the majority of the young men are not going to be persuaded by what the little women's want and what they need. Oh my God, Trump's taking away the right to abortion. No, he's not. He's not doing any of that.
You can't take away something, a right that isn't a right. Let's start with that, okay? It's not a right. I'm never going to call it a right. I think that's bullshit. And as far as access to the procedure, it's women's fault that this is happening.
Yeah.
Prior to Roe v. Wade, there was already legalized abortion in most states. Women simply had to demonstrate a medical need, right? Or in a lot of states, they just had to demonstrate that it was an adverse situation for them. So a medical need could include mental health. If she was depressed about being pregnant, she could have an abortion. Right? She didn't even have to threaten suicide. She just had to be depressed, upset.
That's just
distressed,
disgusting.
Right? And
that's disgusting.
Right. It is. But it is what the law was in the majority of states.
I'm sad because there were consequences to my decisions.
Yeah. So
fuck out of here.
When we hear that historically women couldn't have abortions, that's bullshit. When it was a medical procedure, when it became a medical procedure and not something that women did out of desperation in their own home, and it became part of a medical practice in America, there weren't very many years in between when that happened and when it became a fairly common practice. There were like 200,000 abortions done the year before Roe v. Wade, right? And there were like 300,000 done the next year, and it continued to go up, and it was going up. It was like 100,000 the year before and 70,000 before that. It was real close. I have a video about it where I did a review of the trailer for Call Jane. Haven't watched the movie. I don't know if I can stomach it, but the trailer gave a bunch of impressions, and what I basically did was I went through and fact checked those impressions, and of course they were bullshit. It was all bullshit, which is pretty common from feminism. Feminism is pretty much all bullshit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's once again, women had access before Roe versus Wade, and it was only feminists trying to expand the practice to make it more common to be done in later terms and expand the profitability of Planned Parenthood, really, that pushed people to the point of wanting it outlawed again, and pushed people to the point of wanting it defunded and wanting it stopped. If they had just left well enough alone, access would have continued to be available, and they wouldn't have had anything to complain about. But back to this organization. So here's one of their statements of philosophy here, and this is under women. They have this lovely image of a bunch of women putting their fists together to form a big O. I guess they were very happy in that moment. We believe that structural and cultural changes are needed to ensure women's and girls' human rights. We support the work and partner with women's organizations who have been at the forefront of the struggle for women's rights. And they go on. We work in Latin America and the Caribbean to facilitate meaningful exchanges among organizations and governments to expand women's opportunities and access to services. We also equip young men and women with the tools needed to challenge sexist norms and to lead.
Oh, look, they mentioned men.
Yeah,
this is all just, it's all
right?
fucking. Yeah, of course. But this is all just fucking word salad. What does that even mean? Can you actually articulate what it means without all the flowery, fluffy fucking language here?
Yeah, what they're
that
doing
mean?
here. This is America funding a feminist conspiracy in South America to inform changes in law and policy, to manipulate legislators. Right. That is what that is. Plain and simple language. It's a feminist conspiracy in South America to manipulate legislators using U.S. tax dollars.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's the United States exporting feminism. Yep. So then we have one last one. And I'll be as brief as I can with this. Also, State Department. So again, none of these are USAID. None of it, right? So the State Department paid the International Development Law Organization, also known as IDLO, I guess. They paid $850,000 to enhance the promotion of gender equality and address root causes and consequences of gender-based violence. And here they're talking about institutionalizing rule of law by developing and expanding criminal justice systems to strengthen partner country law enforcement and judicial effectiveness, foster cooperation in legal affairs, and advance respect for human rights. So what they're talking about here is, again, an international feminist conspiracy to change law and policy to gender partner violence law and sexual violence law. But the administrative agency, Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs.
It all just sounds like the same fucking thing. It's like one organization, right? But they're using these shadow shell corporations to get more money, right? Like these, I don't know if it actually says who's involved here, but it sounds like it's one corporation with like 3 or 4 or 5 different people, and they all have their hands out, and they're all collecting checks to do the same exact fucking thing.
Yep. And their funding goes back in this chart to 2008. They got $2.9 million in 2008. And there's this is what $2.9 million looks like, right? There's the $5 million line, right? And then we get to 2017.
They put a little graph.
Shit. Yep. And then we have this little roller coaster here, and we got 20.5 million in 2022. So they're averaging somewhere in between 5 and 10 million. Between the beginning and the end. But what's really going on here is that in the last 10 years, quite a bit of increase in spending has taken place. I don't know why they didn't get anything in 2019, but the rest of the time they sure did.
It just doesn't make sense. Like, where is this money going to? If all you're doing is trying to change the hearts and the minds of the people, couldn't you just write like a letter? You know what I mean? Why does it take all of these?
It's a $50,000 letter written on $20,000 stationery with a $10,000 ink pen by by a $20,000 expert.
Even that, I wouldn't like it, but I would say, okay, all right, you got to pay one person to do this thing. Why does it take 20 million anything to do something? And how fucking how long have they been getting this money? How many years? You mean you couldn't accomplish this within your first 3 to 5 years, and now it's still gotta go on to this day? Because what happened? Your influence was that fucking shit poor that it didn't work. And you just need more money. I just need more money so I can just convince these people. What? What is the money going to? I know what it is. You're paying people off.
You want to know something else about this organization? They're not paying people off, by the way. It's one of the things that we have noticed with feminist organizations is that there's always somebody at a CEO level in the organization that is making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to attend to like 6 meetings a year. And right. Seriously. But so this organization, they in their What We Do page, they talk about basically the same thing as the last one, that they essentially go into the areas where they're working and influence changes in law and policy. And they have this gender strategy, and we have this page that explains a little bit about their gender strategy. But I believe this is the page where I saw. Yeah,
and like they do it by what? Buying them all fucking Rolexes? What the fuck?
No, pressure campaigns, but partners and donors, right? So they need all this money from the United States because without us they wouldn't be able to function, except wait, they're getting money from China, Denmark, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Sweden, and the United Kingdom in addition to us. And then also, this is the top one, guys. I'm not putting them first.
Oh my God!
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, British Council, East Europe Foundation, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, European Union, European Commission, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. So we give the United Nations money, and then we give United Nations sub-organizations money that do these type of things, and then we give this organization money, and then the United Nations takes some of the money that we gave them and gives them to this organization too.
Disgusting.
Right? Ford Foundation.
Yo!
Search for Common Ground.
The Ford Foundation.
Yeah.
Those were the motherfuckers that what was her name? That feminist that we were just fucking talking about a few weeks ago. That the one, oh my God.
Yeah, the Ford Foundation is the organization that funded the first gender studies course in the United States.
Yes.
Right? And it goes on, right? Swede Bio, Stockholm Resilience Center, the Netherlands Institute of International Relations. Then we have 3 separate United Nations organizations.
3.
Convention on Biological Diversity, Program on HIV/AIDS, Development Program, UNDP, and then Vive Healthcare. So they have all these different, this funding going into this organization is huge from all of these different.
Disgusting. So
feminists, when they talk like they're just individual chicks on the street advocating for gender equality, how can you get so upset, right? It's because they're not. They do have power and influence. They have a shitload of power and influence. They have a international network of funding and refunding. Like, they re-gift funds between each other, to each other. Just pass this money around like, like a $3 whore at a frat party. And we're supposed to feel sorry for them. These poor underdogs that have had such a hard time fighting in the world for gender equality for women.
They're so oppressed by this mountain of cash that's lying on top of them. Oh my God.
Yeah.
How am I ever gonna get up from under all this fucking money? It's just too much.
And all this fucking money goes to promote this gender strategy, and they have this philosophy, Ideolo's gender strategy, achieving gender equality and justice for women through the rule of law, aims to ensure that gender is well integrated into Ideolo's work, and that Ideolo programs, research, and advocacy effectively contribute to gender equality, women's empowerment, which is separate from gender equality, guys. Women's empowerment is a whole separate thing, which indicates that women's empowerment is not about equality.
Nope.
And achievement of fair justice outcomes for women and girls, which, again, separate from equality, therefore it is not about equality. It is informed by internationally recognized human rights standards, empirical research, and global commitments on gender equality. They're still using the word equality, at least. But, so how do they do this? IDLO is the only intergovernmental organization exclusively devoted to promoting the rule of law, meaning it is involved between governments, between different countries. So they consult with Italy, they consult with Brazil, they consult with India, they consult with the United States. They'll go back and forth. They're the organization, or at least one of the organizations, that is promoting the idea that there needs to be a unified, for instance, domestic violence law around the world that should be based on the same beliefs about domestic violence, the Duluth model, and should respond the same way, fund the same responses, fund the same research, and basically make the same stipulations, so that no matter what country you're in, if a wife beats her husband or pours a kettle of hot water on him while he's sleeping, he doesn't have the same recourse as she would have if he just yells at her.
You know, I'm sure there's a fair amount of these people that actually believe that they are justified in doing a good thing, but I really, really want to know how many of them actually just know that this is a money grab.
I think most of them.
I would think so too. I would think so too. But, you know, it's...
And now, for them, it is just a money grab, but what they're doing still has real-world implications. For instance, here's the one important paragraph explaining exactly, when they go back and forth between these countries, what they do. IDLO's strategic plan specifically states that IDLO is committed to promoting gender equality through non-discriminatory, gender-responsive laws and institutions, enhancing women's access to justice, and increasing their legal empowerment to achieve sustainable development. So to take that out of legalese, what that says there is that IDLO goes to these partner countries that they're working with and looks through their law and policy and says, you need to change this to be more feminist friendly. Here's where the problem is. Here's what we want you to do. And they get what they want. So when you see feminists in London fighting to eliminate women's prisons and have all women's criminal activity treated as a mental health issue that needs to involve going to a mental health institution instead of being imprisoned for violent behavior and stuff like that, it starts with an organization like this. And it is funded by U.S. taxpayer dollars. And when you see feminists in India fighting for a law that allows a woman to make a domestic violence allegation against her husband and then have his whole family put in jail, including his infant nephew, that was funded by an organization like this, promoted by an organization like this. Probably this one, right? And it's that way throughout the world. So we go back to feminist jurisprudence, and remember what we said at the beginning of the show. Feminists believe history was written from a Western cis male point of view and does not reflect anyone else's role in making history and structuring society. And this part right here, the language, logic, and structure of the law are male created to reinforce Western male values and power dynamics. Creating a binary of male and female also creates an implied hierarchy. So that's what they're trying to erase.
What the fuck?
Right? Their philosophy is to essentially gender bias every law and every policy they can get their hands on in order to erase Western male values and power dynamics that they believe rule the world.
Yet they have no problem living in westernized countries.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, these fucking people.
Yep.
I can't do it.
And with that, I think we have covered this particular set. There will be more. Next week we're going to look into a few more. I may not go through everything I find, because a lot of it is the same. Like this tonight had a theme, and I can do other nights like that where it's similar theme. We could do a whole night, if I go through and search it, we could do a whole night on the American federal government exporting circumcision. But in the meantime, it's that it'd be one of those nights where you definitely would, if you you need to take aspirin before the show to keep your blood pressure down.
I mean, it makes me I don't even want to say irrationally, because I think it's completely rational, that level of anger that it pushes me to. And I think more people should be this angry about it.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree.
It infuriates me, because it almost feels like there's really nothing that I can do but talk about it. So I'm happy to do that. But it's just so fucking wrong what we do to men in this country. And to watch them sit back and say, oh, well, I'm fine with it. Oh, I'm glad that my parents did it. No, you just really don't understand the full implications of what happened to you. And that's part of that psychological trauma.
Yeah. Yep. It'd be like saying that if a girl goes to a party and she gets completely plowed out of her gourd and passes out, and then somebody rapes her while she's passed out on the couch, that she shouldn't be traumatized because, I mean, she doesn't remember it.
Right.
Like, nobody would accept that. Nobody.
Nope.
But they'll accept that when you say it about a little boy who was conscious when he was cut and felt everything.
Everything.
During the part of his life where his experience of time was so short that every minute, every second is an eternity.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Before we go, we have a couple of super chows, not super chats. Meredith G gave us $5 and said HBR Talk 342, honey for the Badgers. And Xeranx gave us $5 and said the etymology of fascism. The word fascism originates from the Italian term fascismo, which is derived from the word fascio, meaning bundle of sticks. So it's faggotry. Because a bundle of sticks, if you're going to use them to start a fire, is a faggot. Anyway, a faggot of wood. So that's so funny.
Thanks, everyone. It's nice knowing you.
I know. It's just like, that's great. Bundle of sticks. This term, in turn, is derived from the Latin word fasces, not to be confused with feces. It's pretty easy to confuse those two things, which refers to a bundle of rods bound around an axe, an ancient Roman symbol of authority carried by lictors before magistrates. So basically, lawyers used to carry this symbol. The symbolism of the fasces suggests strength through unity, as a single rod is easily broken, but a bundle is difficult to break. By the same principle, guys, if you ever want to impress somebody by tearing a phone book in half, you bend it so that you just get the very tip of the pages, and you're only tearing a couple of pages to start with. And once you get it started, you might actually be able to tear the entire phone book. For Gen Z, a phone book is like a catalog of phone numbers that we used to get every year. We'd get a new one, and it would be about an inch to 2 inches thick, depending on the area that you lived in, and everybody was listed in it. unless they paid extra to not be listed. And so it would have your name in alphabetical order, and that was the white pages, and then you had the yellow pages that had all the businesses, and you had to pay to be in the yellow pages. So this is a book that's between 1 inch and 2 inches, maybe 3 inches if you're in a very big area, a very populated area, thick, and people would impress others by ripping it in half because, you know, you're really strong if you can do that. But if you actually start by bending it so that the pages aren't all flat up against each other, you can actually do it very easily. Anyway, so he goes on, so this is how fascism is leftist or left-wing. And it's also why some of us consider the GOP being left-wing as well, because they are pretty authoritarian, just to the right of the left. So, and that's fitting. But, yeah. You separating things out does make them easier to break. And that, by the way, is why, back during the Cold War, Russia worked so hard to destroy the unity of the American people. Because a bundle is difficult to break, but individuals can be broken very easily. It's also why family is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Family and community, actually. So, but those are our super chows, and we do not have any super chats, and we do not have any Rumble rants. So I will thank everybody for listening to our crazy rant about feminism and government. This stuff, you guys have to know that this is I'm doing this partly because it's a big I told you so, and I do love getting to say I told you so. So, but it's also, everybody needs to know this. You need to realize just how interwoven feminist funding really is within our government. I think, personally, and I'm not going to claim that I have evidence of this, but I think if you went through every aspect of the American federal budget, you would find that probably 80% of it is attached to some form of feminist spending or another, directly. Not even indirectly attached, but directly attached. And I think if we eliminated feminism from the U.S. government entirely, we wouldn't need income taxes at all.
Yep.
Maybe not even property taxes.
Hopefully this is coming soon. I am holding out on hope that my President Trump, please, if you are listening to the sound of my voice, let's get rid of this income tax. And I think what's happening is he's trying to cut back on all of the extraneous spending, so that he can make that a possibility. Right? Yep. Because right now it's
that's how you run a budget.
Exactly.
Other politicians take note.
Exactly. So, good luck, Godspeed. I'm right there with you. Let's go. I am so not tired of winning.
There we go. We will leave you all with the wise words of Mr. 303, who says, anger is a justified emotion in the face of injustice. And he is absolutely right about that.
How dare you? No, it isn't. You cannot possibly say this. This is racist and sexist and transphobic. Why I order?
You better shut up before I come and mutilate your genitals.
Oh, no. You are not an otter. You're a dude. I know. I sat next to you.
Prove it.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks to my two co-hosts for sticking out this long sausage with me. More to come. Thanks to everybody who works in the background to make HBR Talk happen. Good night, all, and
Good night, y'all.
We'll see you next Thursday.
Yeah.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. holy shit, you're fucked.